The shuttle slowed as it moved through the pale blue mist around the Virealian capital world. From the outside, the planet looked calm and beautiful, covered in glowing oceans and floating structures that caught the light of distant stars. But inside the shuttle, Commander Elias Ward felt the weight of tension pressing down on his chest. He stood near the viewport, hands behind his back, his posture straight and controlled. He had learned long ago that how a human carried himself mattered, especially when surrounded by aliens who judged strength by silence and fear by movement. This mission was not supposed to be dangerous, at least not in the usual way. Elias was Earth's official envoy to the Virealian Empire, a species older than humanity's recorded history. They were powerful, advanced, and known for one thing above all else: they never made alliances lightly. Some species left the Virealian court as partners. Others never left at all. As the shuttle docked, Elias took a slow breath. He was not afraid. Fear was familiar to humans. It was something they carried and walked forward with. The doors opened, revealing a vast hall of crystal and light. Tall Virealian guards waited in perfect formation, their armor smooth and reflective, their eyes dark and unreadable. At their center stood an attendant robed in silver. "Commander Elias Ward," the attendant said in careful galactic common. "You are expected." Elias nodded. "Then let's not keep anyone waiting." As he walked through the hall, he felt it again. That strange sensation, not hostility, not anger, avoidance. The guards did not look at him directly. Their gazes shifted just slightly away, as if his presence caused discomfort. Elias had seen fear before. This was something else. He was led into the high court chamber, a massive circular room with rising tiers filled by alien delegates from dozens of worlds. The air hummed with quiet conversation that slowly died as Elias entered. At the far end of the chamber was the throne, and it was empty. A ripple of light appeared above it, forming the image of Queen Valith of the Virealians. Her hologram was tall and elegant, her crown shaped like a ring of floating shards. Her face was composed, regal, and distant. Elias stopped at the center of the chamber and bowed slightly as protocol demanded. "Your Majesty," he said, "on behalf of Earth and its colonies, I thank you for receiving me." The Queen's holographic eyes focused on him. For a brief moment, so brief that most would miss it, her expression tightened. "You may speak, human envoy," she said. The words were formal, but her tone was careful, measured. Elias noticed. He began his prepared address, speaking of trade, shared security, and peaceful cooperation. He spoke plainly, without exaggerated promises or threats. Humans had learned that honesty, even when simple, carried weight. As he spoke, he noticed movement among the Virealian advisors. They whispered to each other, their body language tense. One of them stepped subtly closer to the throne projection, as if shielding the Queen from something invisible, from him. When Elias finished, silence filled the chamber. "You propose much," Queen Valith said, "and yet you offer little in return." Elias met her gaze. "We offer reliability. Humans keep their word, even when it costs us." A murmur passed through the chamber. The Queen studied him in silence. Then she said, "Your species is unusual." Elias allowed himself a faint smile. "We hear that often." The Queen did not return the smile. The session ended shortly after. Elias was escorted out, polite words exchanged, but something felt unresolved. As he walked back through the corridors, he replayed the meeting in his mind. She never appeared in person. That alone was strange. Virealian queens were known to rule from the throne, present and unhidden. Yet for him, she had chosen distance. That night in the guest quarters provided to him, Elias reviewed reports and data. His aide, Lieutenant Mara Chen, stood nearby. "She didn't like you," Mara said carefully. Elias shook his head. "No, that wasn't dislike." "Then what?" He paused. "Fear or something close to it." Mara frowned. "Of you?" "Of humans," Elias corrected. The next day brought another audience and another absence. Again, Queen Valith appeared only as a hologram. Again, her advisors stayed alert. Again, the Queen kept her physical distance. But this time, something happened. A sudden alarm echoed through the chamber. The lights flickered. A Virealian official rushed forward, panic clear in his movements. "The outer defense lattice is destabilizing," the official said. "If it collapses, the city's shields will fail." Chaos rippled through the court. Virealians were not used to sudden failure. Their systems were ancient, perfected over millennia. Elias stepped forward without thinking. "What's causing the instability?" The Queen hesitated. "A logic loop in the core. It cannot resolve competing commands." Elias closed his eyes briefly, visualizing the problem. Human engineers dealt with messy systems all the time. Imperfection was normal to them. Your system is trying to protect everything equally, Elias said. It needs priority. The advisors stared at him. That is illogical. It's human logic, Elias replied. Sometimes you choose what matters most or you lose everything. He worked quickly, guiding their technicians through a temporary override. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. The alarms stopped. The city's shields stabilized. For the first time, the chamber erupted, not in fear, but in astonishment. Queen Valith stared at Elias. Her hologram flickered for just a second, revealing a glimpse of something raw beneath her composure. Relief, and something else. The session ended abruptly again. This time, Elias was not escorted out immediately. Instead, he was left standing alone in the chamber as the court emptied. He looked up at the throne. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "if I have done something to offend you, I would rather know than guess." The hologram reappeared. "You have done nothing wrong," the queen said. "Then why won't you meet me in person?" Elias asked. The question echoed in the empty chamber. For a long moment, Queen Valith said nothing. When she finally spoke, her voice was lower. "Because," she said, "it would be unwise." The image vanished. Elias stood there, frozen not by her words, but by the fear he had heard beneath them. Elsewhere, deep within the palace, Queen Valith dismissed her attendants and sealed the chamber doors. Alone at last, she removed the crown and placed it on a pedestal. Her hands were trembling. She pressed them together, steadying her breathing. It had been centuries since she had felt this way, since a presence had shaken her so deeply without a single threat. The human had not raised his voice, had not shown aggression, had not tried to dominate. That was what frightened her most. Humans carried something dangerous, not in their bodies but in their emotions, a weight that pressed outward, touching everything around them. And she could feel it, even through a hologram. Valith looked toward the sealed doors, imagining the human envoy standing somewhere beyond them, calm and unaware of the storm he brought with him. "Forgive me," she whispered into the empty room. "I am not ready to face you." And far away, in his quiet quarters, Elias Ward stared out at the alien sky, wondering why the most powerful queen he had ever met seemed afraid to be seen by him at all. The days that followed were quiet on the surface, but tension moved beneath every corridor of the Viorlian palace. Commander Elias Ward noticed it in the way servants paused when he passed, in the way guards adjusted their stance, and in how the air itself seemed to tighten whenever his presence was announced. Yet the queen still did not appear. Each audience was the same. A glowing projection, careful words, distance. Elias remained patient. Humans had learned patience the hard way through long wars and longer recoveries. If the queen needed time, he would give it. But something told him this was not a matter of politics. It was personal. On the fifth day, Elias was invited not to the high court, but to a smaller chamber deep within the palace. No delegates, no crowds, only two Viorlian advisors and a dimly lit room shaped like a circle of stone and crystal. Queen Valith's hologram appeared once more, but this time it was closer. Too close. Elias felt it instantly, the pressure, not physical but emotional, like standing near a storm you could not see. "Commander Ward," Valith said, "this meeting will be brief." Elias inclined his head. "As you wish, Your Majesty," one of the advisors spoke, his voice tense. "The Queen has agreed to answer your question." Elias looked back to Valith. "Then I will listen." The Queen's image flickered, then stabilized, her eyes fixed on him, unblinking. "You asked why I will not meet you in person," she said. "Before I answer, you must understand something about my people." Elias said nothing. "We are not like humans," Valith continued. "We do not separate emotion from thought. They are one and the same. What we feel, we become." Elias frowned slightly. "That sounds difficult." "It is controlled," she replied, "or it was." Silence stretched between them. "Centuries ago," the Queen said, "we observed your species from afar, your wars, your sacrifices. Your capacity for love and grief. We believed we were only watching." Her voice softened. "We were wrong." The advisors shifted uneasily. "There was an early contact," Valith said. "A lone human explorer, lost, injured. He was brought to our world." Elias' jaw tightened. "What happened to him?" "He survived," she said quickly. "But his presence changed everything." Valith's image dimmed slightly, as if remembering cost her effort. "He felt deeply," she said. "Fear, hope, loyalty, regret, all at once. For us, such intensity is contagious." Elia's breath slowed. He began to understand. The queen before me, Valeth continued, could not shield herself. She bonded to his emotions. She felt his need to protect, even when he was weak, his refusal to surrender, even when alone. The queen's hands clenched at her sides. She began to change, Valeth said, not in mind but in instinct. She started to question tradition, to feel doubt, compassion. That doesn't sound dangerous, Elia said quietly. For us it was, Valeth replied. She could no longer rule with certainty. She abdicated, the court fractured. It took generations to heal. The room fell silent. And humans, Elias asked. Classified as emotionally hazardous, Valeth said. Too powerful to engage closely, too unpredictable to trust. Elias nodded slowly. Then why invite me here at all? Valeth looked away. Because the galaxy is changing, she said, and because despite everything, I felt something different when I observed you. Her gaze returned to him, sharp and afraid. Calm, she said, control. Restraint and yet the same depth. Elias felt a strange weight in his chest. So you're afraid? Yes, Valeth said simply. I'm afraid of what will happen if I stand before you without barriers. The advisors looked shocked. A Virelian queen admitting fear was unheard of. Elias took a slow step forward. Then don't stand. The queen blinked. What? Sit, Elias said. Lower yourself. Meet me as an equal, not as a ruler. The advisors protested immediately, but Valeth raised a hand. You would ask that of a queen, she said. I would ask that of a person, Elias replied. The hologram trembled. You do not understand the risk, Valeth said. Even now, speaking to you this closely, I can feel it. Elias softened his voice. Then listen to me. Humans feel deeply, yes. But we also live with it every day. We don't break because of emotion. We grow stronger. Valeth's expression tightened. And if I fail, Elias lowered his gaze, a human sign of humility. Then I will step back. The queen studied him for a long time. Then, without warning, the hologram vanished. For a heartbeat, Elias thought the meeting was over. Then a door opened. Queen Valeth stepped into the chamber in person. She was taller than her projection, her presence heavy and radiant. Her skin shimmered faintly, her eyes glowing with restrained energy. She stood several steps away, rigid, as if holding herself together through force alone. The advisors backed away, fear clear on their faces. Elias froze, not in fear, in awe. Valeth took one unsteady breath. The emotional pressure surged, filling the room like a rising tide. Memories that were not Elias brushed the edges of his mind. Duty, loneliness, centuries of control. Her hands trembled. I cannot maintain this for long, she said. Elias did not move closer. He stayed exactly where he was. You don't have to, he said. You already showed courage. Her eyes locked onto his. Why are you not overwhelming me? She asked. Why does your presence feel steady? Elias considered his answer carefully. Because humans learn something early, he said. Emotions don't disappear when you deny them, they only grow. We face them, we carry them, and we choose anyway. Valeth's breathing slowed. The pressure eased slightly. For the first time since she entered, she did not look afraid. Then an alarm shattered the moment. Red light flooded the chamber. A guard rushed in, panic clear. Your Majesty, he said. The Car Dominion fleet has crossed the outer boundary. They are exploiting the shield recalibration. The advisors turned to the queen. Fear returned. Valeth straightened instinctively but faltered. The emotional strain surged again, stronger now. Elias stepped forward at last. Your Majesty, he said firmly. Look at me. She did. Breathe, he said, one step at a time. She followed his lead, mimicking his slow, controlled breathing. The pressure stabilized. The advisors stared in disbelief. Elias turned to the guard. How much time? Minutes, the guard replied. Elias nodded. Then we don't panic. Valeth looked at him. You would command my defense? No, Elias said. I would help. Together they moved toward the command chamber, not queen and envoy, but allies. As the palace prepared for war, Valeth realized something terrifying and wonderful at the same time. She was not losing herself. She was finding balance, and the human beside her was the reason why. The command chamber of the Virelian palace was alive with movement and light. Holographic star maps floated in the air, showing red markers where the Car Dominion fleet was advancing. Officers moved with controlled urgency, their voices sharp but restrained. This was not panic. This was preparation. At the center of it all stood Queen Valeth. She was no longer hiding behind holograms or barriers. She stood in her full presence, her posture straight, her eyes focused on the unfolding threat. The emotional pressure she carried was still there, but it was different now, balanced, grounded. Beside her stood Commander Elias Ward. He did not give orders, he did not raise his voice. He simply observed, listened, and spoke when needed. And when he did, others listened. "The car fleet favors direct assault," Elias said calmly, studying the display. "They expect fear." "Confusion," a Virelian general responded. "They believe our queen is weakened." Valeth's hands tightened for a moment. Elias noticed but said nothing. "Then we give them something else," Elias said. "Control." The general tilted his head. "Explain." Elias pointed to the outer defensive ring. "Your shields are strong but rigid. Humans design systems that bend, redirect energy, let the first wave through just enough to make them overcommit." The room went quiet. "That would appear as weakness," an advisor said. Elias nodded. "Exactly." Valeth studied the human. "You would risk our capital?" "I would trust your people," Elias replied, "and your strength." Something shifted in Valeth's expression. She turned to her commanders. "Do it," she said. The orders went out. The shields adjusted. The car fleet surged forward, believing victory was close. Then the trap closed. Energy fields folded inward, redirecting the car weapons back into their own formation. Virelian counterfire struck with precision, not fury. Human tactical logic combined with alien technology in perfect sync. The first car ships fell. Cheers did not erupt. The Virelians did not celebrate mid-battle, but something else spread through the chamber: confidence. As the battle continued, a sudden shockwave rippled through the room. Valeth staggered, her breath catching. The emotional strain returned, sharp and sudden. Elias turned instantly. "Your Majesty!" "I'm fine," she said, but her voice trembled. Elias stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You're carrying too much alone." She looked at him, eyes wide. "I cannot release it." "You don't have to release it," Elias said. "Share it." Her breath hitched. For a Virelian, sharing emotional load was unthinkable, dangerous, but she trusted him. Slowly, she focused on him, mirroring his steady breathing. The pressure eased again, flowing instead of crashing. The advisors watched in stunned silence. The battle turned decisively in their favor. The car fleet, confused and damaged, began to retreat. When the last enemy ship vanished from the display, the chamber fell silent. Then, quietly, the Virelians bowed, not just to their queen, to the human beside her. Valeth turned to Elias. "You saved us." Elias shook his head. "No, you stood your ground, I just helped you breathe." Later, in the quiet after victory, Valeth dismissed her court and walked with Elias through a private garden within the palace. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly, reflecting in still pools of water. For the first time since his arrival, there were no guards nearby. "I feared you," Valeth said at last. Elias nodded. "I know." "I feared losing myself," she continued. "My people believe strength is control, distance, silence." She stopped walking and faced him. "But you showed me something else." Elias waited. "You feel deeply," she said. "Yet you do not drown. You carry pain, fear, love, and still choose restraint." She lowered her head slightly, a gesture of respect. "That is strength." Elias felt the weight of the moment. "Humans learned that feeling doesn't make us weak. Running from it does." Valeth looked up at the alien sky. "The galaxy fears you." Elias smiled faintly. "The galaxy doesn't know us very well." The next day, the High Court assembled again. This time, Queen Valeth sat on her throne in person. No holograms, no distance. Elias stood before her. "Let the record show," Valeth said, her voice steady and clear, "that humanity is no longer classified as emotionally hazardous." A ripple of shock moved through the chamber. "They are something else entirely," she continued. "They are emotional anchors. A species capable of standing within emotional chaos without breaking." She turned her gaze to Elias. "We will ally with them." The court bowed. News spread quickly across the stars. The Virelians had chosen humanity. Other species watched with awe and unease. As preparations were made for Elias' departure, Valeth met him one last time at the docking platform. "You will leave now," she said, "but you have changed us." Elias looked at her. "You were never broken." She allowed herself a small, genuine smile. As the shuttle lifted away, Valeth did not retreat into shadows. She stood in full view of her people, calm and unhidden. And far beyond the palace, across the vast silence of space, the galaxy began to understand something new. Humans were not dangerous because they felt too much. They were dangerous because they could feel everything and still choose who they wanted to be.